Why do Sigma males disappear from the dating scene like Batman from a rooftop? In a world obsessed with constant connection, where dating apps promise endless options and social media glorifies public displays of affection, there exists a rare breed of men who operate by a different code. They are the Sigma males, elusive, self-contained, and enigmatic figures who move through life with quiet intensity. Unlike the alpha male, who thrives on dominance and social hierarchy, or the beta male, who seeks approval and belonging, the Sigma exists outside the conventional spectrum. He answers to no one, follows no herd mentality, and, most intriguingly, often remains conspicuously absent from the modern dating circus. But why? Why do these self-aware, confident, and deeply introspective men, the ones who effortlessly command a room without uttering a word, choose to stay single far longer than the average guy? Picture this scene: a man enters a crowded space, his presence immediately palpable despite his silence. He isn't posturing or peacocking, flashing designer labels or rehearsed charm. Instead, he's the one seated in the corner, nursing a coffee, his gaze sharp and observant. He speaks only when necessary, yet his silence speaks volumes. This is the essence of the Sigma male, a man who doesn't seek attention but earns it effortlessly through sheer depth of character. While society scrambles for likes, matches, and fleeting validation, the Sigma is elsewhere, constructing empires in the shadows, honing his craft, and mastering the art of self-sufficiency. To the outside world, he may appear detached or even aloof, but this perception couldn't be further from the truth. His solitude isn't loneliness, it's sovereignty. He doesn't vanish from the dating scene out of fear or inadequacy but because he refuses to participate in its shallow games. Today, we're dissecting the psychology behind why Sigmas remain unattached longer than most, and why this isn't a weakness, but a strategic advantage. As Carl Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. For the Sigma, that journey often requires walking a solitary path, undisturbed by the noise of societal expectations. While others chase relationships out of fear of being alone, the Sigma embraces solitude as his greatest ally. It's where he refines his purpose, sharpens his mind, and cultivates an unshakable sense of self. So if you've ever wondered why the most magnetic men seem to vanish just when the world tries to pin them down, understand this: the Sigma male isn't lost. He's exactly where he intends to be, a step ahead, playing by his own rules. Now, let's pull back the curtain on the real reasons behind his prolonged singlehood and uncover why this quiet independence is, in fact, his most formidable superpower. Strap in. This is where the ordinary dating rulebook ends and the Sigma's playbook begins. Number 1, they're not emotionally dependent, they're self-contained sovereigns. The Sigma male represents the pinnacle of emotional self-sufficiency in a world where most relationships are built on neediness and lack. Unlike the majority who enter romantic entanglements seeking completion, the Sigma arrives as a fully realized individual. His sense of worth isn't contingent upon another's validation, his happiness isn't borrowed from a partner's affection. This fundamental difference in approach creates a seismic shift in how relationships function, or more accurately, why they often don't form at all in the traditional sense. Modern dating culture operates on a deficit model, people coupling up to compensate for what they lack internally. The Sigma disrupts this paradigm entirely. Having undergone what Carl Jung termed individuation, the psychological process of integrating one's conscious and unconscious elements into a harmonious whole, the Sigma has achieved something most never do: authentic selfhood. He's faced his shadows, reconciled his contradictions, and emerged with a steel-clad identity that requires no external reinforcement. When such a man chooses to enter a relationship, it's not because he's lonely on a Tuesday night or fears dying alone. It's because he's deliberately selected a companion who enhances an already fulfilling existence. This radical self-containment makes the Sigma an anomaly in the emotional marketplace. Conventional relationship dynamics rely on the very dependencies he's transcended: the need for constant reassurance, the fear of abandonment, the craving for external validation. Without these leverage points, the typical power plays and manipulative tactics fall flat. The Sigma doesn't engage in the push-pull games that characterize modern dating because he has nothing to prove and nothing to lose. His presence in a relationship is a gift, not a necessity, a distinction that simultaneously elevates the connection's quality while making it inaccessible to those still operating from a place of lack. For partners accustomed to traditional dynamics, this can be unsettling. Society has conditioned us to equate being needed with being loved. The Sigma challenges this directly: he doesn't need you, he chooses you. This isn't rejection but the highest form of respect, an invitation to participate in a union where both parties are free agents, bound not by desperation but by deliberate, ongoing choice. It's a relationship model that demands equal self-possession from both participants, a rarity in an era where emotional codependence is often mistaken for intimacy. Number 2, they're obsessed with purpose, architects of destiny before lovers. The Sigma male's relationship with his mission resembles that of a medieval monk to his calling, total, uncompromising, and all-consuming. While romantic poets might swoon over moonlit sonnets, the Sigma's passion is reserved for his life's work. This isn't a rejection of love's beauty but a reordering of priorities that places personal destiny above all else. His love language isn't words of affirmation or quality time, it's shared purpose and mutual growth. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs reveals why this orientation is so rare and powerful. Where most people plateau at belongingness needs, the desire for intimate relationships and social connections, the Sigma operates at the apex, self-actualization. His primary drive isn't to be loved but to become. This creates an entirely different courtship calculus. While conventional daters ask, does this person make me feel good? The Sigma asks, does this person make me better? The distinction is revolutionary. This purpose-centric worldview transforms the Sigma's approach to partnership. He doesn't seek relationships to fill empty evenings or soothe existential dread. His nights are already occupied, with skill acquisition, enterprise building, or intellectual pursuits that demand full engagement. When he does make space for romance, it's not as an escape from life but as an extension of it. The ideal partner isn't someone who completes him, he's already whole, but someone who comprehends him, who understands that his midnight oil burning isn't neglect but devotion to something greater than temporary affection. The implications are profound. This orientation automatically filters out those seeking conventional, comfort-based relationships. The Sigma's gravitational pull attracts only those rare individuals who see beyond the superficial trappings of romance to its deeper potential, not as an end in itself but as fuel for mutual actualization. His version of intimacy isn't candlelit dinners but shared silences while both work on their respective masterpieces. His idea of commitment isn't possessive attachment but mutual respect for each other's solitary journeys toward excellence. In a culture that glorifies romantic love as life's ultimate purpose, the Sigma stands as a living rebuttal, proof that the most compelling men aren't those who chase love but those who become so consumed by meaningful work that love must rise to their level or not at all. This explains why Sigma males often partner later in life. They're waiting not for the right time, but for the right person who understands that true partnership isn't about losing oneself in another, but finding oneself alongside another. Number 3, they can't stand small talk, architects of meaningful dialogue. For the Sigma male, casual conversation isn't just boring, it's an active drain on his finite mental and emotional resources. Where others might exchange pleasantries about weekend plans or the latest viral trend, the Sigma's mind operates on an entirely different frequency. His cognitive architecture is wired for substance, not superficiality. This isn't mere preference but a fundamental neurological orientation. Research in personality psychology confirms that individuals scoring high in openness to experience, a hallmark Sigma trait, demonstrate greater activation in brain regions associated with abstract thinking and conceptual processing. The Sigma's aversion to small talk stems from deeper existential priorities. While weather patterns and sports statistics dominate most social exchanges, his mental energy is reserved for grappling with the essential questions: what constitutes a meaningful life? How does one reconcile mortality with ambition? What unseen patterns govern human behavior? These aren't academic exercises but vital inquiries that shape his daily existence. When forced to participate in trivial discourse, it's not just boredom he experiences but a visceral sense of time theft. Each minute spent discussing celebrity divorces or office politics is a minute stolen from conversations that could expand consciousness or spark innovation. This intellectual intensity creates a natural filtration system in his social life. Where the average person might maintain dozens of casual connections, the Sigma's circle remains deliberately small but extraordinarily potent. His relationships, whether platonic or romantic, require a specific caliber of interlocutor, someone who can shift effortlessly from discussing quantum physics to analyzing the psychological underpinnings of ancient mythology before breakfast. The payoff for meeting this standard is profound access to a mind that most never glimpse. When engaged on this level, the Sigma doesn't just share thoughts but reveals entire worldviews, his normally guarded demeanor giving way to passionate exposition. Modern neuroscience explains this dichotomy. While shallow chatter activates only basic language processing centers, meaningful dialogue lights up the brain's default mode network, the system responsible for introspection, empathy, and identity. The Sigma isn't antisocial, he's selectively social in ways that nourish his highest cognitive functions. In an era where digital communication has made superficial interaction endless, his refusal to participate isn't elitism but self-preservation, a recognition that words should either carry weight or not be spoken at all. Number 4, they see through the mask, human lie detectors. The Sigma male's ability to discern truth from deception borders on the preternatural. This isn't some mystical sixth sense but hard-won expertise earned through relentless self-examination. Having spent years deconstructing his own facades, the masks we all wear to navigate society, he's developed an uncanny ability to spot them in others. Modern psychology confirms this phenomenon. Individuals with high levels of self-awareness demonstrate significantly greater accuracy in detecting micro-expressions and verbal inconsistencies. The Sigma isn't just observing conversations, he's reverse engineering them at the subconscious level. His detection methods are multifaceted. Where others might focus on what's being said, the Sigma registers the 100 subtle tells surrounding speech, the slight dilation of pupils when certain topics arise, the unconscious hand gestures that contradict spoken words, the barely perceptible changes in vocal timbre that reveal emotional leakage. Clinical studies on deception detection show these nonverbal cues often provide more accurate information than conscious communication. The Sigma's advantage lies in his patience. He'll observe for hours, days, or even months before his target realizes they're being psychologically mapped. This perceptual acuity makes him virtually immune to common manipulation tactics. Love bombing? He recognizes it as the overcompensation of insecure attachment. Gaslighting? He's documented too many interactions to doubt his own memory. The hot and cold routine? He sees the strategic withholding pattern for what it is. What's most remarkable isn't his ability to detect these games but his refusal to play along. Where others might confront or try to fix the behavior, the Sigma simply disengages. His withdrawal isn't passive aggression but the ultimate power move, denying the manipulator the very thing they crave, a reaction. Evolutionary psychologists suggest this skill may stem from ancestral survival mechanisms. In hunter-gatherer societies, the ability to quickly assess trustworthiness determined who lived and who died. The Sigma represents the modern manifestation of this ancient adaptation, a cognitive specialist in authenticity detection operating in a world drowning in pretense. His greatest strength lies not in exposing falsehoods to others but in refusing to let them disrupt his internal peace. Having conquered his own demons, he recognizes theirs before they even realize they're fighting. Number 5, they don't fear loneliness, they transform it into creative fuel. The Sigma male's relationship with solitude would baffle most modern minds. Where contemporary culture pathologizes being alone as something to avoid, medicating it with endless scrolling, casual hookups, and noise-filled existence, the Sigma approaches solitude as both sanctuary and crucible. Neuroscience reveals why this distinction matters. fMRI studies show that during intentional solitude, the brain's default mode network activates, the same system responsible for creative insight, future planning, and self-referential thought. The Sigma isn't merely tolerating alone time. He's leveraging it for cognitive alchemy. This mastery of solitude follows a distinct developmental arc. Early on, the Sigma likely experienced what psychologists term necessary loneliness, those formative periods where social exclusion forced self-reliance. But where others might develop trauma responses, the Sigma underwent what researcher Clark Mustakas called creative loneliness, transforming isolation into a workshop for identity formation. His current ability to spend weeks or months in productive solitude stems from having turned what terrifies others, confrontation with the unadorned self, into his greatest advantage. The modern world's 24/7 connectivity has atrophied most people's capacity for solitude. The Sigma represents the antidote to this collective weakness. The practical manifestations are striking. While others depend on partners for emotional regulation, the Sigma maintains equilibrium through disciplined routines, morning journals that clarify thinking, meditation practices that stabilize mood, intellectual projects that channel restless energy. His alone time follows what positive psychology calls the JOMO principle, joy of missing out, the genuine pleasure derived from opting out of social obligations to preserve focus. Historical exemplars, from Nikola Tesla's marathon solo inventing sessions to Carl Jung's self-imposed isolation at Bollingen Tower, demonstrate this pattern. The Sigma understands that all meaningful creation requires periods of withdrawal from the collective noise. What makes this especially radical is how it inverts conventional relationship paradigms. Most couples form what psychologists call socially regulated dyads, using each other to manage anxieties and fill existential voids. The Sigma's self-sufficiency makes him immune to this dynamic. When he eventually chooses partnership, it's not because he needed someone to complete him, but because he found someone who comprehends that even together, they must preserve sacred spaces of solitude. This explains why Sigma relationships often feature uncommon arrangements, separate workspaces, independent travel, or silent companionship that would unnerve more conventional couples. Number 6. Their standards are legendary, the alchemy of discernment. The Sigma male selectivity in relationships operates on near-mythic levels, following principles more akin to quantum physics than dating advice. His approach embodies what ancient alchemists called the solve et coagula process, first dissolving all impurities, low-standard options, to then coagulate, solidify, only the purest substance, an ideal partner. Modern attachment theory would diagnose most people as having an anxious preoccupied orientation, lowering standards to secure attachment. The Sigma represents the rarest secure autonomous type, willing to remain unattached indefinitely rather than compromise. This discernment stems from sophisticated self-knowledge. While others chase vague notions of an ideal partner, the Sigma has mapped his requirements with near-scientific precision across multiple dimensions. Intellectual resonance: can she engage with complex ideas without intellectual insecurity? Emotional sovereignty: does she take responsibility for her emotional states? Purpose alignment: does her life mission complement rather than conflict with his? Energy compatibility: do their circadian rhythms, social batteries, and conflict styles harmonize? Neuroscience explains why this selectivity pays off. Research on assortative mating shows that partners with aligned values and neurobiology experience more durable relationship satisfaction. The Sigma intuitively understands this, refusing to engage with mismatches that would trigger chronic stress responses. His legendary standards aren't arrogance, they're predictive algorithms refined through observation. The economic principle of opportunity cost operates ruthlessly in his calculus. Every hour spent entertaining mediocrity is an hour stolen from his mission. This explains his seemingly abrupt disqualifications: the woman who talks too much about trivialities, the one who requires constant reassurance, the one whose ambitions don't transcend conventional milestones. Each gets politely but firmly dismissed, not out of cruelty, but because the Sigma's life operates on a different time scale. He's playing infinite games while others play finite ones. When the right connection finally materializes, the effect is catalytic. Freed from the draining work of managing incompatibilities, the Sigma relationship becomes what psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi calls a flow dyad, two autonomous individuals whose union generates multiplicative rather than additive value. They don't complete each other's sentences, they complete each other's existential purposes. This explains why Sigma partnerships often emerge later in life, not from lack of opportunity, but because such rare alignments require both parties to have first completed their individual becoming. In a culture that mistakes availability for worth and compromise for maturity, the Sigma's unwavering standards stand as both indictment and inspiration. His solitude isn't involuntary, it's the necessary cost of refusing to trade the extraordinary for the convenient. Number 7. They refuse to play modern dating games, sovereigns of authentic connection. The Sigma male moves through the modern dating landscape like a ghost moving through walls, present but untouched by its corrosive games. Where others get caught in the endless cycle of swipe-induced dopamine hits and performative courtship rituals, the Sigma recognizes these patterns for what they truly are: psychological traps designed to keep participants addicted to the chase rather than focused on genuine compatibility. His refusal to participate isn't aloofness, but a sophisticated understanding of human interaction that cuts through modern dating's carefully constructed illusions. Contemporary dating operates on what behavioral economists call intermittent reinforcement, the same unpredictable reward system that makes slot machines addictive. The hot and cold behavior, delayed texting responses, and strategic unavailability that characterize modern romance aren't organic human interactions, but carefully engineered tactics to trigger obsession. The Sigma's immunity to these games stems from his advanced emotional literacy. He recognizes these patterns as the psychological equivalent of junk food, momentarily stimulating but ultimately malnourishing. Research on attachment theory confirms that individuals with secure attachment styles, like the Sigma, show markedly less reactivity to these manipulative dating tactics compared to their anxious or avoidant counterparts. When confronted with inauthentic behavior, whether it's love bombing from an insecure partner or breadcrumbing from an emotionally unavailable one, the Sigma's response is neither confrontation nor compliance, but quiet elimination. His exit strategy reflects what psychologists term clean pain, the conscious choice to endure short-term discomfort for long-term peace, rather than the dirty pain of prolonged drama. This explains why Sigma disengagements often feel abrupt to others. Where most relationships fade through gradual disinvestment, ghosting, slow fading, the Sigma makes surgical cuts once his internal metrics detect irreconcilable incompatibility. The Sigma's dating philosophy aligns with what anthropologists call slow love, the intentional deceleration of romantic progression to allow authentic connection to develop. In practice, this means texting with purpose, communicating only when there's substantive content to share, not to maintain artificial presence. Vetting through action, prioritizing observable behavior over curated online personas or persuasive storytelling. Energy auditing, continuously assessing whether interactions leave him energized or depleted. Temporal investing, viewing time as the ultimate currency, only spending it on connections with exponential returns. This approach creates a self-reinforcing system. The more the Sigma refuses to play games, the more he attracts, or repels, accordingly. Partners who thrive on drama find him frustratingly unreactive, while those seeking depth recognize him as a rare haven of authenticity. His detachment isn't coldness but clarity, the ability to see modern dating for the distorted marketplace it's become, while quietly building his own alternative model based on transparency and mutual respect. In an era where dating apps have turned romance into a commodified attention economy, the Sigma stands as living proof that some men still operate by different rules, not because they can't compete in the system, but because they've outgrown its very premise. His greatest power lies in his willingness to walk away from any connection that requires him to betray his standards, making him simultaneously the most elusive and most authentic figure in the modern romantic landscape. Conclusion: the Sigma's silent victory. The Sigma male doesn't just reject modern dating games, he transcends them entirely. While others exhaust themselves chasing validation through curated texts and mind games, he remains unmoved, a sovereign of his own emotional kingdom. His solitude isn't loneliness, it's the price of refusing to barter his peace for temporary affection. In a world addicted to instant gratification, the Sigma's patience is revolutionary. He knows the rarest connections aren't found in crowded swipe queues but forged in the quiet spaces between people who've outgrown illusions. When he finally chooses someone, it won't be because he needed to, but because he wanted to. And that makes all the difference. Stay uncompromising, Sigmas. The right ones will always recognize your frequency.